Let's get back to the deadly Texas flooding. Stories of survival and resilience are still unfolding in the wake of the devastating Hill Country flood, and we'll continue to hear stories. This morning, we're hearing from one of those survivors, David Fry, joining us to share his experience. David, thank you so much for sharing your story with us this morning.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
So first off, just tell us, how are you and your family holding up right now?
All in all, the family's doing really well. There were a couple of minor bumps and bruises, nothing to be concerned about from that standpoint. At this point, there are definitely some folks that are working through some anxiety, some just lingering fear, call light to moderate PTSD, esque symptoms. But all in all, everybody's doing well, and I think a little bit of time, love and support from the community and family, everybody's going to do just fine.
Walk us through what happened on July 4th.
Yeah, absolutely. So July 4th, going out to hunt and going to the river Inn has been a long time family tradition. My wife and her family started doing it, over 3 decades ago. And it's been something that we've continued through ever since with our children. We arrived on site around 6:30 that evening, sat down to dinner with family, and just kind of wound things down early. We'd had kind of intermittent rains throughout the day, and those started to pick up around midnight or so when everybody was really heading to bed. Now, those rains really started to intensify around 2 a.m., and that's when we noticed the water levels starting to rise substantially. By 2:45, those waters had come up really just outside of the sidewalk that you can see there around the exterior of the building. And the management and ownership team there at the River Inn made a decision, hey, we've just got to get out of here and get out of here now, let everybody know and give them as much warning time as necessary to get out and evacuate the area. So within a matter of about 15 minutes, gone through, banged on as many doors as possible, tried to rouse as many individuals as possible, and then just started making our retreat to the parking lot in the rear of the River Inn. We really thought that was going to be sufficient, just given the distance from the waterfront and the change in elevation. Within a couple of minutes, we found out that we were wrong in that calculation and had to start moving to our vehicles, hoping to move higher up on the hillside alongside the River Inn. That exit point to get off to higher ground, unfortunately, was blocked off by water at that point, and so we just had to sit there on the road and essentially wait to see how things were going to transpire. After about 30 or 45 minutes of watching that water creep closer and closer, we realized, hey, the road's going to flood out as well. And so we had to make the decision then, exit the vehicles, head back to the entrance to the River Inn and try to get, up to higher ground, up to a second floor any way that we can.
So how long were you in the area? When were you able to leave and get home?
Once the water stopped and receded, somewhere around 5 or 6 that next morning, at that point, it was just a hurry up and wait game. We had no way of contacting the outside world. There is limited, if any, cell reception in that area. Generally speaking, your best avenue to contact the outside world is via Wi-Fi, all of which was down at that point in time. So again, early on, we had no idea what was going to happen. We were able to, once the waters got down, get up to a hillside where we had limited cell reception. That's when the initial reports of just the assessments of the damage, loss of life, the missing, started to roll in. So definitely a very, I think, strange, isolating feeling to know that we're that close to it, not knowing which of our friends and family may be impacted by this. But all in all, we were there for 18 to 20 hours. We did not know initially how long we were going to be there, so we did scavenge for supplies, water, first aid items, things of that nature. But the response by the state, by national agencies, by volunteers was really overwhelming, and we ended up being out of there within 24 hours.
So the management team is who first alerted you to evacuate, get on higher elevation.
That's correct.
If you did not have that management team alerting you guys, would you have known what was going on?
Yeah, I was one of a handful of individuals that was up at that hour. I was just outside, had a difficult time sleeping because of the rain, because of the electrical activity. And so I was watching from vantage point outside of my room. The ownership and management teams were incredibly vigilant in terms of just making the rounds, making the paces. There were a couple times they mentioned to me, hey, if it progresses much further, we're going to have to move quickly. So they did have, an improvised plan in place. By improvised, I mean, no one had anticipated, this level of rainfall. None of the predictive models, none of even the late warnings that came out indicated that we would receive anything in the neighborhood of this type of rainfall. So it was very much an on-the-fly decision. Again, they were very, very decisive. Once it was time to go, it was just all hands on deck. Let's get this done.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about if you were in an Airbnb or a different situation where there wasn't a management team, how you would have been alerted, because a lot of people were asleep and did not know what was going on outside. Do you have any ideas of maybe what would have been helpful to you if you were on your own in a Airbnb or a situation like that?
I think, at this point, it's been pretty well documented. There is a significant need for infrastructure improvement, whether that is monitoring, detection, and alert systems, whether that's just a matter of improving cell coverage out in that area. There are changes that need to be made. We've known that those changes need to be made for years. The residents of that area have been clamoring for it for years. Unfortunately, in last year's legislative session, there was funding available to address some of these needs, and that was voted down. I'm glad to hear that Governor Abbott has legislation on the table right now that we're hoping to push through, and I'm hoping that gains overwhelming, if not unanimous, support. But I think it's important that people keep an eye on this issue, that they get in touch with their elected and appointed leadership, make their will known in this, and for leaders that are not willing to help out, I hope that we will hold those people to account.
Yeah, I'm sure you would be a great voice and advocate for whatever you think needs to be done. David Fry, thank you so much for sharing your story. We're so grateful that your family got out, all 33 of you, as we continue to mourn the lives there in Kerr County.